Week 6 is here, and with that, the first of the NFL bye weeks, which means it's even tougher to make those tough stardom decisions at the tight end position. But not to worry, we have Sports Illustrated's senior fantasy analyst, Michael Fabiano, to help us navigate those murky waters. Fabs, you got a couple guys on your start list this week that we may not have even had on our radar even just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, and I'll give you a hint on who one of them is. Boom! How about them Cowboys? Let's go with Dalton Schultz. He has been amazing. I mean, look at the numbers that he's been putting up in an offense that has CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper. It hasn't mattered. He scored 13-plus fantasy points in 3 straight games. He's had at least 10.5 fantasy points in 4 of 5 games this season. He's seen 7 or more targets in each of his last 3 games. And the matchup may not be good on paper, but the Patriots haven't really faced any good tight ends until now. Start Dalton Schultz. And then Dawson Knox, who is a waiver wire ad of Jen Piacenti's 2 or 3 weeks ago. Boy, he's been unbelievably productive. Right now, he is the second best fantasy tight end. I mean, that's amazing. I don't know if that's going to continue, but he will continue to be a top 10 option at a very thin position. So unless you've got Travis Kelce or Darren Waller, I am starting Dawson Knox on a regular basis, and the matchup is right against the Titans.
You also like Tyler Higbee, and I have to point out, I really like that you selected for a DFS bargain this week, Ricky Seals-Jones. Fantastic matchup.
I'm starting him in a couple of leagues, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely love it. There's a couple tight ends that you're going to sit, one of whom had a really big week last Sunday.
And nobody benefited from it unless the Njoku family was starting David on their fantasy rosters. But yeah, he went bananas last week. 27.9 points against the Chargers. But he had scored a combined 18.1 fantasy points in his previous 4 games. And this matchup is bad, right? The Cardinals have allowed the fewest fantasy points to tight ends. So if you're desperate, okay, I get it. You want to chase the points with Njoku, but that might not be the best idea. Don't love the matchup, and he hasn't really been getting consistent targets on a regular basis. And then Robert Tonyan, I feel like I'm going to bury him in the sit-him portion of the tight end column every single week until he does anything, right? He's a touchdown-dependent tight end who, Jen, doesn't score touchdowns, and he's only had 3 red zone looks the entire season. The Bears have been sneaky tough against tight ends, giving up the 7th fewest points. So until Tonyan turns things around, he should be on your bench or maybe even the waiver wire.
Yeah, touchdowns are really important at the tight end position. A lot of times, that's the only way they're valid. I want to point out another person that you mentioned in your DFS bargains, Mo Alley-Cox. And I think he has a possibility to find the end zone this weekend. So yeah, it's a tough position, but don't worry. We've always got you covered. SI.com/fantasy.